And it's not so easy to be respected. Your peers respect you, your clients respect you, your employees, the community. To be liked. That people like working with you. They want to be with you. But feared in the sense of a sports team. Oh my God, I've got to play that team. They're going to kill me. But I still like them. I still respect them. Because you can be respected, but nobody likes you.
Right.
Or you can be liked, but nobody really takes you that seriously. So for us, it's aspirational.
Have you ever wondered what makes some companies grow while others plateau or fade away? Or what makes an inspirational leader versus someone who teams dread working for? On the Thinc Ahead podcast, the executive team at Thinc Strategy chat with business leaders who share their lessons and journeys, their strategies on growth and leadership, and how they're continuously thinking ahead. On today's episode, Thinc Strategy's Cindy Anderson and Karen Albritton welcome Monty Hagler, President and CEO of RLF Communications. From humble beginnings in Charlotte to leading one of North Carolina's most dynamic communications agencies, Monty shares a story of how his team-oriented approach, commitment to values, and a vision for growth have shaped his career. Whether it's navigating acquisitions or fostering collaboration, Monty offers insights that inspire businesses to aim higher. Here's Thinc Strategy consultant Karen Albritton.
So I'm really excited about our guest today, Cindy. Is somebody that I've worked with and known for a long time, Monty Hagler with RLF Communications. And Monty has recently been growing his business through acquisition.
Oh, nice.
And so I think that's good. I think he's going to have some great stories and insights to share from his recent experience. So
awesome. Well, welcome, Monty. We're so glad you're here. Thank you.
It is great to meet you, and it is great to reconnect with Karen, although we have stayed in very good touch since we worked together.
We were children.
20 years ago. Let's not go 20 years ago.
Yeah, full disclosure, Monty and I did work together. So, Monty, one of the first questions we often ask people is about their founder story. Mm-hmm. You know, I think when we worked together, you wanted to have a firm, and now you do. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how that all came to be.
Sure. So I'm a North Carolinian, born and raised in Charlotte. My father was an English professor. My mom was a librarian. So communication was really sort of in my blood. And went to Chapel Hill for undergrad, and then I went to Temple University in Philadelphia for graduate school. And I often say I learned more just living in Philadelphia for 2 years in the late 80s than I did actually in class. But I came back to North Carolina and thought I wanted to go to work for a big company in Charlotte because I was very interested in corporate communications. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew I was a good writer, a good storyteller, and had just started interviewing. But my very first job was I took a job working for the Harvey Gantt for U.S. Senate campaign in 1990.
Wow.
They needed a writer on their fundraising team to write telemarketing scripts and direct mail. You know, that was before mobile phones and email. And so I worked on that campaign as a paid staff member for 6 months. It was an amazing team. I met Ken Udy, who was the founder of Capstrat. He was a consultant to the campaign. And I learned so much. And I met so many people, and it was a great effort. Even though we lost, we still set the record for the most money that had ever been raised in the United States for a Senate campaign. Mm-hmm. So a great team. And then I went to work for First Union. And at the time, First Union had these ambitions to grow, both First Union and Bank of America down the street. And I did internal communications and media relations, and the bank went from $20 billion in assets to $120 billion in assets, mostly through acquisition. And it was an amazing team, right? Those folks who were so good at their individual jobs, and we worked together. We were all working for the same thing. And I said when I worked for the Gantt campaign, I never want to work that hard again. Then I go to First Union, and I was like, I never want to work this hard again. But Ken Udy and I had stayed in touch, and I'd been at the bank for 5 years, and it was time for me to get experience on the agency side. And Capstrat was either 5 or 6 people. And they said, we want to grow Capstrat, and we think your experience would be great. So I moved from Charlotte to Raleigh. My mother cried when I left First Union. I was a vice president. She was like, what are you doing? To go to this firm that nobody had ever heard of. But we had this amazing team, and we were all working together. And then Karen joined through the FGI acquisition. And I was at Capstrat for 8 years. I was the president, and we were probably 60, 65 people. And I had an opportunity to go run a larger advertising agency based in the Triad. And I wanted to learn the advertising side of the business. Karen came from an advertising background, right? And so they had a small PR group. So I was going to run the PR group while I learned the advertising side. And what I found over doing that for 3 years is we grew the PR side of the business very well. I found I really did not like how an advertising agency was run. I was constantly in conflict with the other 3 partners about how clients should be treated, how employees should be treated, how we should treat our vendor partners, how we should pursue new business. And I was just beating my head against a wall. And I reflected that I had worked with teams where we were all pulling together and how great that was. And I was spending my time fighting. And that wasn't good for me. That wasn't good for those guys. It certainly wasn't good for our employees who had conflicted loyalties. We've all worked for organizations where politics creates so much unnecessary drama. Mm-hmm. And so I decided that if I really thought I had a better way to run an agency, I should quit talking about it and I should do it. And so I left and started my agency on April 1st, 2007. So we just celebrated this week our 17th anniversary.
Congratulations.
So that's how we got to having a new agency.
So tell me a little bit about the name.
So RLF stands for respected, liked, and feared. And it came out of a memo that I wrote my staff when I was at Trone about what kind of agency. And I actually have the memo. You know, some people call it the Jerry Maguire memo, but this is the memo that I wrote February 15th, 2006. And the subject line is respected, liked, and feared. Huh. And I said, you know, somebody had asked me, do we want to be a business-to-business agency or a healthcare agency? And I said, I don't feel compelled to carve out a unique niche, but what I am compelled to do is create an agency that is respected, liked, and feared. That is my core vision. Because we've all heard the saying, good, fast, cheap, pick any two. And it's not so easy to be respected. Your peers respect you, your clients respect you, your employees, the community. To be liked. The people like working with you. They want to be with you. But feared in the sense of a sports team. Oh my God, I've got to play that team. They're going to kill me. But I still like them. I still respect them. Because you can be respected, but nobody likes you.
Right.
Or you can be liked, but nobody really takes you that seriously. So for us, it's aspirational. And I didn't want to call it Hagler and Associates because it's not about me, right? Again, why did I do it? Because I'd worked with great teams where I was able to add my part and it wasn't going to be just about me. So somebody said, well, Monty, you should call it respected, liked, and feared. And I said, well, I don't think I can get away with that, but I bet I could call it RLF. And to this day, we have clients that have no idea what our name stands for. But that's where it came about, and it stuck. And it's much more an internal thing and an aspirational thing than we go out there and plaster that.
Interesting.
That is really cool. Now, when you are talking with some of your firms that you're looking to acquire, and you share that story with them, what's their general response? Because I would think that's really different than what they're hearing if they're being courted from others.
Yeah, I think they like it.
Yes.
They want to be part. The reason why they've done these deals, particularly Claremont Communications, Dana Phelps, and Billy Warden with GBW Strategies, is they have the same desire as I do to compete and to win. We want to be the dominant firm in North Carolina. And they want to be part of that. And so we know we will be better together than individually.
Do you select a lot of your prospective firms based on the talent that you see within that firm?
Well, we've only done 3, but it was about talent. Like, so Dana and I have known each other for 20 years and competed against each other, right? And won some and lost some, but have a lot of respect for her. And with Billy and Greg, I mean, Billy is brilliant, right? And so each of us have our own unique strengths, but it was about talent, but it was also about their client base. They had some great clients, and they knew if they had more depth, more resources, more team members, more people who could contribute both strategy and tactics, that they could do a better job for those clients. And that's what drove a lot of this is they knew they could do a better job for their current clients if they were part of us. And I knew that we could grow as an agency and create more opportunities if we had bigger clients who allow us to do more work. Right. So it really sort of fit together nicely. Now, I've had other conversations, probably 2 or 3 other conversations with people who we thought about acquiring, and it wasn't the right fit. And part of it was talent, and part of it was client mix, and part of it was just, I think you view the world differently than the way I view the world, and I've been down that road.
Yes.
And I'm not saying you're right or wrong, but I'm saying we're different, and we wouldn't be a good combination.
I love what you're saying because I talk with folks all the time about aligning your core values first. We can get to dollars and cents on an acquisition, right? We're either going to be in the same range or we're not.
Right.
It's whatever that is. The money part, I always feel like is easier. People laugh when I say that, but really the harder part is putting the time into the cultural alignment first. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. And that's why it has gone so well integrating Claremont and GBW, because I felt like we were all very aligned philosophically. And so the integration in the first quarter, not to say there weren't some bumps.
Sure.
But one of the things that we're doing is a big focus for this year is process. We were process light at RLF. And if you're going to continue to grow and take on more complex things, so we put in place a new creative process because we do websites and videos and collateral material. And, we're a PR agency, but we're full service. We have a creative director. We have a graphic designer. We had no process. It was I need to create this video, so let me just go, call different people. So we put in place a process. 50% of our work is pitching media. It's earned media relations. We didn't have a process for that. So the way you approached it was different from the way you approached it. So we have created an earned media playbook with best practices for here's how we prep for media pitching, here's how we actually do it, here's how we follow up. And so now it's getting everybody on the same page to start following those things. And those will be living, evolving documents.
So one thing I'm interested in, knowing Dana and Billy,
Yes.
and also knew some of the people at Bearing as well, but definitely Dana and Billy and Greg. Very senior people that you brought in, and I'm wondering, did they bring process with them?
Some. And so that's been good because we're trying to create the best of, since we weren't really established, I'm really open to other ideas here. How did you do it?
Right.
I want to say Billy brought a lot of process.
I would have expected that.
But Billy appreciates process, right? Billy appreciates the fact that we have a team now that can take these great ideas he has and how do we structure them and build them out. So I would tell you that I think we have the most experienced senior team of any agency in North Carolina. When you add Agnes and Donnie and Billy and Dana and David and me, we got like 300 years of senior PR. It's crazy.
I don't know if that's always something to brag about, Monty.
We got a lot of smart young people, but
there you go.
But we did want to build out that senior capability.
Yeah, that subject matter expert for your client, right?
Yes.
You're serving a client that's looking for more than just what everybody else can do in a transaction for PR, right?
Yes, yes.
They're bringing something to the table. They've been business owners. They've been acquirers. They've been sellers. They've been all these other things that their client is as well.
We are counselors.
Yes.
And we need to have insight and recommendations, and then we roll up our sleeves and get the work done.
So Monty, a lot of owners don't think about acquisition as a growth strategy. They They think I've got to go sell, and I know you've got to go sell.
Right.
That doesn't take that off your plate. But what led you to that as a growth strategy?
Working at First Union, I was at First Union, and we acquired, I think, 40 banks in the 5 years I was there. So I wrote speeches for Ed Crutchfield, Fast Eddie, right? And it was fascinating to see how he did it.
Yes.
And, I remember two things. One was we were doing an interview with the Wall Street Journal. We had just acquired a bank, and he said, well, we're doing this, and now we're about we're $100 billion bank. And I was like, we're really like 81 billion. He just rounded up $19 billion. But in his mind, he knew where he was going.
That's right.
And I think it was 6 months later, we were at 100, And they said, well, how did you get Dominion Bank to finally sell to you? They had rebuffed bank after bank. And he said, well, I just kept setting down $1 billion bill after $1 billion bill till he said yes. But he had a vision, and we bought those banks and we integrated those banks. They became First Union. It wasn't, oh, you'll keep your own brand. You'll keep your own brand. We were building a brand. So I really think I learned it from those formative years working at First Union. And I left before First Union made their big stumble. They acquired the money store, totally different business, totally different culture. And on the West Coast, how are you supposed to manage the West Coast from Charlotte?
Right.
And then they moved into Boston and bought Core States, I think. And the Northeast is a very different culture from the Southeast.
Yep.
So I've tried to learn the lessons, both good and bad, from what I remember. And that's why doing your due diligence and the account part of it, but about the culture, the fit. Can we work together? Can we play off of each other? Are your strengths complementary with my strengths? And that's why we walked away from at least 2 deals, because at the end of the day, I was like, I don't think we're on the same page.
Right.
I think it is about the money.
Right. And only about it maybe sometimes. And, you say something that I think there's 2 things you've said that I just think are so important. We need to put a fine point on them. One is it takes a team when you want to scale.
Mm-hmm.
If you think you're the classic entrepreneur, sweating it out for 80 hours doesn't scale a business. That might get you started. It might help you build it, but it's not going to help you scale it. So you've got to bring in people that are really smart. We've all heard that, but we don't always practice it. But the other thing that you said, I think is just so important, is that First Union looked at it as we are continuing to build our brand. Each time we acquire, we're evolving our brand. So many firms don't think about it like that, right? They think, oh, it's my brand, Cindy Anderson, so I'm buying you. Now it's Cindy Anderson. But really, if you want to make yourself better, you always have to be thinking about evolving that brand as you acquire. Talk to us about that.
Exactly. So I think we're not planning any more acquisitions, mostly because I'm out of money, right?
Right.
But we want to focus on organic growth. But we need to raise our brand visibility and in North Carolina. And look, we serve clients all over, but we believe there are dozens, hundreds of companies based in North Carolina who are doing national and global work who we would be a very good agency for, but we have to be on their radar screen, right?
Right.
So another thing that we've done is we now have offices in Greensboro, Charlotte, and Raleigh. I believe we're the only agency that has offices in all 3 locations. And we've done that because we really want to have the footprint that says we serve this state and we know this state. We're going to be doing work all over, but I want to be if I want to be the dominant agency in North Carolina, I wanted to have a presence in all 3 markets.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, though, about that, I mean, that's a little counterintuitive now, in light of everything's gone so remote. So, there are agencies they don't have any offices.
That's right.
So talk a little bit about that, maybe as how that resonates with not only clients, but also employees.
So we've gone to a model, and I think we all grew up in you were in the office every day, and you probably better be there on Saturday, right?
Right. Don't show up on Sunday if you didn't come in.
That's right. On Sunday if you didn't come in on Saturday, right?
Exactly.
I absolutely remember that. And so I've tried to evolve. And so we've gone to a model where employees work from home on Mondays and Fridays. and they are in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, whether that's Charlotte or Raleigh or Greensboro. And once a month, we all get together in Greensboro. And we have our team meeting and other meetings. They like it because I generally buy lunch. I don't believe that's great that some agencies have made it work fully remote. We can't do that. We found the pandemic was very hard on us when we were working remotely because we were making small mistakes. Small mistakes will kill you in this business, right? Clients will let you get away with it once, twice. The third time, they're like, I'm paying you to be on top of this stuff, right? And for young people who are starting their careers, I think it's the worst thing that can happen to them. They can't really be mentored. They can't be coached. They can't listen in on conversations. They can't be brought into something at the spur of the moment. So we've made a decision not to do that. So actually, Dana, Claremont Communications, had an employee who was working remotely from Ohio. Had been working for 3 or 4 years, doing a great job, fantastic employee. I said, I would love for you to join us. You can work in Charlotte, you can work in Raleigh, you can work in Greensboro. She said, I can't move back from Ohio. I said, then we're going to help you transition out because we're not doing this. We're going to have a team that works together. So that's just a model I've chosen.
Yeah.
Other agencies have chosen to do it different ways, but that's what we have decided to do. And look, would it save me money if I said we're not going to spend money in Charlotte for an office space? Absolutely.
Right.
But that's not how I think we can build the best culture. But clients are different. It's not like they want us to come over to their office every day. I mean,
Right.
Everything has changed about that. Mm-hmm. But for us, in terms of working together, we have found this hybrid model works well for us.
It's like one of the biggest downsides to remote working that we hear all of the time is the young people are cheated of the training they get hearing a phone conversation or hearing two other people talk. It's not the mentoring of me going up to Karen and we're having a conversation. It's hearing the things that go on around you that you just can't be exposed to otherwise.
Exactly.
In the home.
And if we have all these experienced people, if you don't expose other people to them, that's a waste, right? Because trust me, my leadership style is and work style is very different from Billy's or Dana's.
Sure.
And so you learn by working with different people. It's really interesting, too. Somebody was saying the other day, they said, I think we have 6 generations of women in this agency. We have professional women in their 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, and 20s. And if you count some of our interns,
right,
18 and 19. And I had never thought about that. And what are the common things they have and what are the differences they have because of technology? And I am not a technology person, right? So I learned from our young staff about things of, well, wow, that's a different way that we could deliver that. Or here's something that I didn't know. What I love about this business, I learn something new every single day.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm going to stay on the technology theme for just a second. And one of the things that we're seeing is, technology doing things differently. And, think about that client. You mentioned your senior level experience. That client may not need you to write a press release because they may just do it in ChatGPT. So could you talk a little bit about how you all are thinking about technology and new tools like AI?
And we have seen some clients try and do that. And generally they come back to us for a couple of reasons. It is amazing. ChatGPT is amazing to say, give me some ideas around this. It gives you a platform. So that's how we're trying to start using AI and other technologies. How does it help us? But we've already seen one client use AI to create something, send it out, didn't talk to us, totally violated copyright violation. They basically took intellectual property that was out there, and people are starting to become vigilant on that. You can't just take my stuff and have ChatGPT spit it out and then repackage it as your own.
Right.
So I think we're creating all kinds of issues. We can't ignore it. Look, I was there, when First Union first started using email and allowing us access to this thing called the internet. And, people were like, what is this? I never want to dismiss technology. I think our job is to figure out, Karen, to your point, how do we integrate it into what we do? And how do we have it add value to what we deliver for our clients? But there's always going to be clients who think they can do it on their own. And you know what? They're not good clients for us.
Mm-hmm. So you have integrated multiple agencies in a relatively short time. What are some of the lessons that you've learned?
Sure. So if I could step back just a little bit, when you asked me about my journey and how I got to this. So I took a month-long sabbatical in the summer of 2021. On July 1st, I got in my car and I drove out west and I explored the upper Midwest. I went through Wisconsin and North Dakota, South Dakota, all the way out to Casper, Wyoming. And then I went down to Denver and Colorado Springs, and I came back through Nebraska and Kansas City and in Nashville. So I was alone for about 3.5 weeks. And I really spent a lot of time thinking about what is it that I want, and I decided that I really wanted to commit to growing RLF, that we were in a very comfortable place, and I didn't want to be in a comfortable place. I have a vision for where I want us to be, and what was it going to take to do that, right? And so I came back and said, okay, we're going to really focus. I'm going to really focus. I'd been through a lot of personal things, raising my daughters, and so I said, I'm going to focus on this. And so when you turn your mind to focus on something, then you can accomplish it. And that's when I said, I'm going to start looking at acquisitions and started having those conversations. And again, it wasn't like I went and sat down formally, but I started making it known that I was open to growing through other ways. And so Robert Bueller, who owned Bearing Group, he and I had met each other a few years before. We had stayed in touch. And so when he was ready to do something different, I was the person that he called. Right. So none of this has really been me going and saying, I want to buy you. It's having the relationships and letting it be known that if you are looking to do something different, I am looking to grow. Let's find a way to do this. So the lessons that I've learned are you have to be very clear about what is it that I want and need out of this transaction, and what is it that you want and need. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And if those things align, great. The second thing is, think about, you got to integrate your technology and your billing systems and all of that. And so letting the people who are better at that, because I'm very not good at that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that's not your thing, right? And so you figured that out and you've applied that. I do think it's interesting that you didn't do you started in 2007 and your first acquisition was 2023, really. So it was you didn't pursue that as a strategy. Well, for a long time.
I don't want to give the impression that it's all been up for RLF.
right. 2007 was not the greatest.
No,
time.
2007 actually was. It was our first year. We tonned it. We tonned it. And then May 2008 is when the recession hit for us.
Yes.
And it was like running into a brick wall.
Yes.
We lost 50% of our revenue probably in a 6-week period. It was awful. We regrouped, kept it together, growing again. And then in 2016, and being very candid, I needed to make some changes in my personal life. So I got divorced and pretty much had sole custody of my daughters, who were 15 and 14. And that was my focus.
Yeah.
So keeping my company going was, obviously, because that's how I make my living. But my focus was on a lot of personal things. And also, when you get divorced, you have to value your business and pay half.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Okay. So a lot of financial obligations that took my eye off the ball. Mm-hmm. And that's why I took that sabbatical, because I'd worked my way through all that. My daughters were in a great place. My daughters were in a much better place. And I needed to say, what comes next? I'd also met someone who was amazing and perfect for me. And she met me that last week of the trip in Nashville. And we went to Nashville and Memphis, and we got married 6 months ago, by the way.
Oh, congratulations. Congrats.
And so
that's great.
When you're happy and and settled in your personal life, and when your children are doing well, it really allows you to bring the rest of your life into balance and then focus on the work stuff.
I love that you took a sabbatical for yourself. I've actually done that, and it is the most important thing when you're making that pivotal decision with career, family, whatever it is. But we have to think about it all together. Our personal lives, when you own a business, it bleeds over into your business life. It has an impact on how you treat staff and everything else. So taking that time for yourself was probably cathartic, but it was also probably the real reason why you are where you are today, because it gave you the ability to look at your total piece of what you want for yourself and the stage that you're at in your life. Because sometimes we'll talk to folks and they're thinking, I want to grow, and they've got a 4-year-old. And so you'll ask the question, like, how does that impact your family? And for some people, they have a situation where it's okay. But for a lot of people, they do make the choice. We see employees make that choice all the time. Like, I'm going to only work part-time, or I'm only going to be able to do this. But at some point, life changes.
Life changes. And I think we as an employer are trying to be flexible, with changes that people have. And we, I say we work from home on Monday and Friday and in the office. We will be flexible.
Yeah.
Just not Ohio.
Just not Ohio. Probably over the years, I've been approached more about selling than I was about acquiring, right? Yeah. And there were probably 2 things that were very interesting. And one of them would have been really, really good for Monty Hagler and would have been really awful for my team.
Right.
Because in essence, they wanted me and they didn't really want the team.
Right.
And that just didn't appeal to me. And then the other one, it just wasn't the right time. And so I love what I do. Look, I've proven I can be a really loyal lieutenant, right, at First Union and at Capstrat and even at Trone, because I did a good job for them. But I like where I am right now. That is not to say that our strategy in 5 years may be to sell, right? But I want to be in a position where we are a very strong partner for somebody that wants to join up with us.
Absolutely. Have your company ready if the decision comes that you want to make that transition, however that looks.
Right.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. So tell us, Monty, how do you think ahead today?
So one of the most valuable things that we've done is 12 years ago, we joined a group called WorldCom Public Relations Group. WorldCom is the largest and oldest partnership of independent PR agencies. So 85 independent PR firms around the world. I think there's 35 in the U.S.
That's great.
And we sort of went all in, and it's agencies of varying sizes. Some of them are very, very large. A lot are smaller. But we get together and we share ideas. We share best practices. It's not really about new business. We have certainly generated new business and referred new business, but it's much more about having other people that are in the same boat you're in who are more than willing to share their advice and perspective. So one of the requirements of WorldCom is you have to attend a global meeting with all the partners once a year. So in 6 weeks, we'll be leaving to go to Tokyo for the global meeting.
Sweet.
And so I've gotten to travel a lot of great places. And I am looking forward to taking a notebook. I take a fresh notebook to each meeting and I write down what they're talking about. And we have seminars, like there'll be a panel on how agencies are using AI.
Right.
There'll be a panel on how agencies are adapting, in this post-COVID environment to return to work, and what's the advice we're not giving just to ourselves, but to our clients. Because our clients certainly don't have their employees back in the office.
Yep.
So I think ahead by saying I'm going to have at least one chance, if not 2 chances a year, to interact with these other agency partners, hear what's on their plate, how they're dealing with it, and I'm going to come back with just all these notes.
Yeah.
And then how do we make that valuable for us? There's a lot that continues to evolve, and we have to pay attention to what other agencies are doing and then figure out what is right for us. Because just because it's right for them doesn't mean it's right for us. But what's that germ, that seed that we can take and have grow?
I love that too, because you're also contributing to your industry as a whole, because you're able to share best practices, and that really serves all clients.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. So that's been a great organization for us.
Well, Monty, thank you for this. I wish you just continued success. You got a few colleagues who have been personally helpful to me in my career, and so I'm grateful to them and grateful to you for joining us today.
Well, thank you.
Thank
I've
you.
enjoyed this.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Think Ahead. We hope you've gained some valuable insight and inspiration to propel your business forward. Remember, success is not a destination but a journey, and Think Strategy is here to help you every step of the way. Visit thinkstrategy.com. That's THINC strategy.com for more info. And for more of this podcast, press the follow button and share with your network. This podcast is edited and produced by Earfluence. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again soon on Think Ahead.